Hey guys, Dr. Crocker here. I am very excited about tonight. Normally on Sundays I interview specialists and I didn't have one scheduled for this week, and so instead I'm going to interview my husband, and he is going to join me. He's pouring a glass of wine because he's not sure how he feels about this situation. But I put up a question box asking you guys what questions you would have just about life in veterinary medicine, being married. We were married in vet school, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that. But I thought it would be good to share our journey because we've been married quite a while. Obviously, I'm gonna have to ask him how long it's been to make sure he remembers. But I do feel like we've got it kind of figured out. We've been through the ups and downs of being married in veterinary medicine, but I like to share some of that with you guys and also answer some of the questions you sent us just about our family in general. So I am excited to get started. Shane, do you want to come over here and join me?
Math real quick.
He said he's calculating how long we've been married.
15 years.
He had to look up on his phone when our wedding pictures were. So this is my husband, Shane. Got to scoot closer to me. He said he's going to behave himself. He is definitely the quieter one of the relationship, but he has a pretty witty sense of humor. So I told him he's allowed to be funny, but he has to behave himself a little bit if possible. So how long have we been married?
Since 2006. It'll be 15 years.
15 years. Cheers to that. Hardcore.
I want to go on the record as I'm not for this, and it's going to be an absolute train wreck. So
I don't.
as long as everybody's on the same page here.
I don't think this will be a train wreck. I think that it's kind of fun to talk about our story and our journey, and I'm interested to hear how you're going to answer these questions because I kind of know how I would answer them, but I really want your perspective because the whole thing that I'm trying to achieve is a lot of you are in relationships. Maybe you are married, maybe you're starting vet school, maybe you just finished, you're about to start your job and your career, and it's tough. It's tough being married to a veterinarian, and so I'm hoping that you can help some of these people and their partners. You're like, we're drinking wine, so does that give you does that give you a hint of how it's going? We're like, oh. All right, so I got questions from you guys, and I will say they kind of all came together and grouped together a fair amount. So had a ton of questions about how we met and when we were married. So I'm gonna let you tell that story because I want to hear your version of how we met.
How we met? We both crashed a wedding.
Yes, we were wedding crashers. Yes.
I like to say I'm the original wedding crasher, but we had mutual friends, and we met in San Antonio, and I think she stalked me the whole time we were there.
Oh my God. I mean, actually, I'm not going to say that. I felt like we were just magically drawn to each other the whole
worked
time.
out a lot back in the day.
He did work out a lot. We did spend one night in a hot tub together. Nothing inappropriate, but we both were very in shape then, and I think that might have turned the heat up a little bit on our relationship. So we crashed the wedding, we met there, and then I left, and let's not forget that I actually was kind of dating somebody, or I was dating somebody. Nothing happened between us then, but I went back to A&M and I was like, should we talk more? Should we hang out? There's obviously something here. And you said what?
If you break up with him, we can
Yeah.
talk. I don't know what.
Yeah, you basically said, no, you're in a relationship and I'm not going to talk to you anymore because you're in a relationship. And you were like very nice about it. But I went home to college and I broke up with my boyfriend. And we did long distance for how long?
I have no idea.
It wasn't very long. I feel like so he was in Louisiana originally. I was in Texas. Did long distance a short amount of time. Lots of just meeting on the weekends because I was working a lot. I was trying to get into vet school. And then eventually you ended up in College Station.
Yes.
Moved to be closer to me.
Good decision.
Yeah, it was a great decision. We had a lot of fun in College Station together. So question for you. A lot of people wanted to know, we were together during vet school. Why don't you talk about being together? And we did get married in vet school. Did you feel like that was a good decision? How was it dating and then marrying somebody in vet school?
I didn't think it was that bad. I think we were I don't know if we were older than most.
A little older than
little older.
some, yeah.
I didn't think it was bad. I mean, to me, I felt it was more like a job. So you went to work and I went to work, and you had to study some at nights, but it wasn't terrible. And we spent a lot of time with vet school friends. So
I think it made a huge difference that he integrated himself into vet school. So he would actually like hang out with some of the guys from vet school without me. He would golf with them. And then we hosted a lot of poker nights like at our house for other vet students. Hi, Adam. And so it was really fun to see him not just like considering vet school like my thing. Like he was very supportive. We always had him bringing us like Starbucks when we were working long nights in the anatomy lab. And when I was on clinics, he would bring us food all the time and was just very like, I don't know, what do you need? I have a little more free time. What can I do to help out? So I never was made to feel like studying late or doing things or being with my vet student buddies was a negative, I guess. It wasn't like a competition.
I think it'd be hard to do if I didn't integrate into the environment. If I would have been standalone and doing my own thing, or even stayed out of state and came back and forth, I think it would have been very difficult.
Yeah, it was a lot easier for him to know who I was with when I wasn't with him and kind of what I was doing. So I think seeing it and seeing how hard we were working and kind of that everyone was studying hard and doing a lot made a huge difference overall in our relationship when we were in vet school. And let's be honest, I'm not like a hardcore studier. So he would actually kind of be like, don't you have a test that you need to study for? And so it did, maybe if other people were more anxious, stressed when they were in school and studied all the time, it would be harder.
I mean, I was happily surprised you graduated. It was
not that bad. I did study and I made decent grades. Thank you very much. So, no. So I do think if you're in a relationship and you have a partner who is not very understanding in vet school of like your time and even your energy levels, like you're exhausted sometimes and you don't want to do anything or talk to anybody, I think it's difficult for sure. And so I think that's what a lot of vet students, we saw a ton of divorces in vet school. We saw a ton of relationships that didn't make it, but I never felt like I had to choose between the veterinary path and our relationship.
Agreed.
So that made a huge, huge difference. What were some of the things you felt like I did in vet school? A lot of people wanted to know, how did I still make you feel like you were a part of my life or you were important? You know?
I think just being inclusive. I mean, it wasn't, hey, I'm going to go study with my friends and I'll see you in 2 days. It was, hey, we're going to go do poker night with some buddies. We're going to go out to the chicken and play dominoes, or I need to go study, but can you bring me coffee in an hour? Just making you feel inclusive and being a part of it. And especially a place like an A&M, I'm sure most college towns are the same. There's lots to do. But you have to be integrated into the system.
Yeah, and I think asking too for help or for what you want, like a lot of partners want to help, right? And if you're the type of person that's like, I don't want to bother them, I don't want to like, then you're almost hurting your relationship, because one of the best things he ever said to me was, I can't read your mind. I can't read your mind. So you have to tell me what you need and what you want.
I'm sure I said it very well like that too.
I don't know that it was quite that smooth. And it might have been, I think it was after our first kid when I was like, and you're like, you got to tell me what you need because I can't read your mind. But it really kind of hit home with me that he's not in my head. He doesn't know what I need. And so realizing he was willing to help and willing to be there, but I had to voice it, was really important. And even saying, I'm exhausted, I can't talk right now, or I need a nap, and kind of like saying I need alone time was still okay. Don't you think?
Just needs more time for golf.
Yeah, he was very active golfing and doing other things at school, so that made a difference. And so that's kind of how we met. Wedding Crashers, definite connection, and pretty much got married between first and second year of vet school. And then we did not have our first kid while we were in school. We had it after. And here's the second kid right now. So, what's up, bud?
Hey, how do you get that, okay? Okay, good.
That's good.
Love you.
Night. Love you. Sorry.
Real life.
Yeah, that is real life for sure.
Love you. Go sleep.
So a lot of people want to know about our kids, and we're going to get to that. But I really want to hit on the years between when we first got married to kids, because those are probably some of the more intense years that we had with my career. So we, yes, Eddie, I will let him tell you what he does for a career. A lot of people wanted to know that because he does have a lot of flexibility. But after vet school, we went to California because I had an internship, and you went with me. And that was actually part of my internship decision, was where could I go and he could go with me and we could live together. Some internships did not offer housing or would allow me to live off-site with my husband. So we prioritized still being together. But how was it moving across country, changing jobs, to be with me for a year?
The physical drive or the actual being there? Because the physical drive was terrible.
The physical drive was terrible. Why? Okay, let's lead into this. Someone asked if you were as much of an animal person as I am. No, y'all. The boy, he had no animals when we first met. None. Zero. I actually had someone from his very small hometown tell me we wouldn't make it because he wasn't an animal person. So he's not an animal lover.
I didn't tell her to.
But when we were driving to California, what was your experience with that drive?
Well, you left me with the cat to begin with.
Yeah, I made him drive.
I had to make a makeshift thing for the cat to drive from Texas to California in.
Yeah, because I had to get to my internship, so he was bringing all the stuff and the
Probably
animals.
less than 2 hours down the road, the cat got out of the makeshift containment.
Yes.
And pooped on the dash.
So it's like his worst nightmare, y'all. The cat got loose in the car while he's driving for like 2 days, and the cat literally laid the biggest poop ever on the dash, and it was just rolling around, and he couldn't get it because he's driving down the highway. And he called me so mad,
We almost got to California without a cat.
He's like, I'm leaving the cat. I'm like, you're not leaving the cat. You're bringing the cat to me. But that was a test, and that showed true love right there, that you would bring the cat to California for me, even though it pooped. So
I think that time was probably, I saw you less during that time than I did in vet school.
yes. Yeah, and a lot of people feel like vet school's tough, and I always tell them, man, I think when you get out of vet school, and especially when you're like an intern or new associate, you will see your partner even less. So I probably worked 80 to 100-hour weeks. I mean, it was insane. I had a day off occasionally. We lived by the beach, and we went twice in a year. He didn't see me much. So how did you feel going through that? Like, was that really hard, or how was it?
I don't think it wasn't easy, but necessarily wasn't hard either. But also having the right place, I think, helped. I mean, they were very family focused up there. It was a husband and wife vet team to begin with. So I was welcome to be up there. So I know when you were cutting colics late at night, I came up there and hung out. And, was able to be present up there as well.
Yeah, he would come and actually help and like hold lights and do stuff during colic surgeries. And it was just nice that he, I guess, again, felt welcomed and also wanted to come up, right? And knew he wasn't going to see me that much. So he came to me instead of me feeling like if I don't take off and see him, we're going to be in trouble. And there was many nights I had to sleep overnight in my car up there because I was watching colics, or we were on full watch. So I slept on the property to watch the horses. So we didn't get to sleep together every night. But we definitely tried to still prioritize. We had no kids, so we still really tried to do date night. We're foodies. We would go out and eat. We'd hit a movie sometimes. When we had the time, we definitely were intentional about spending it together. And I think that's important, quality time, for sure. Quality time makes me think of, someone asked what our love languages are. And if you're familiar with that, the love languages are physical touch, words of affirmation, quality time, gifts, and acts of service. Those are the 5. And so, what is my...
Definitely quality time, probably.
I like quality time.
And then words of affirmation.
Yeah.
This is one of my greatest strengths in life.
No, it's not. So he's so amazing. But words of affirmation are not his strength. But he knows that is important to me. So he tries to
Put reminders on my phone.
be good about it. Remind himself to compliment me. And then his is definitely the physical touch. And I think quality time is important for him too. And neither of us are quantity time people. We are quality time people. So the thing is, when we have the time, we definitely want to just sit the two of us and spend time together. And even with our kids now, we're very intentional about that. We love our children, but we do a lot of stuff without our children too. because that helps our relationship immensely. So we are doing an internship in California. We get through that, and you change jobs again, and we head back to Texas. So how was that transition? Because initially I was working equine ambulatory and was still really busy. And probably 50% of our questions went around, how do you handle it when she can't make it to events? How do you handle it, the unpredictable nature of the schedule? So that was probably the hardest time for that. I missed a lot of stuff.
I think that decision coming back to Texas was a big one. I mean, we looked at maybe Colorado or some other places. I mean, I think there was other places on our radar, but knowing that, especially in equine, there wasn't a lot of free time. I think coming back to Texas to set up shop around family. was in hindsight was a big smart decision.
Very, very smart decision. And I actually never thought I would come back to Texas and live here. We wanted to maybe travel, but being in California for a year away from family, for some reason we were like, no, we want that support system. And I do think living in a location close to family has made me be able to enjoy my job and pursue things easier, and made our relationship better because we have babysitters, we have support, we have other people, and it's not just the two of us. I mean, we really do have a huge family unit here that helps us immensely. So that was a really smart decision. But we had quite a few times where, like for Thanksgiving one year, we actually ate Thanksgiving dinner in Dairy Queen because I was on emergency call. And of course it's a holiday, so there's a ton of colics and other things going on. So we're driving around on Thanksgiving, and did you know Dairy Queen's open on Thanksgiving? It is. And so we got like the biggest blizzards we could, and I think like a grilled or fried chicken meal. And for some reason that sounds really like gross now and whatnot, but it's like a really great memory for me because he was willing to work all day and then spend his holiday with me, like in the truck, not with family, but then make like our own, memory. So the fact that he would do that and would, again, kind of adapt to my schedule to spend time with me was huge. I do think there was family that had a harder time with me not being able to commit and show up to stuff, because my family is very close and does a lot together. But I don't feel like you had as hard of a time with that. Until we had kids, and then it was harder, don't you think?
Yeah, I think it was harder, but I think also being there from the beginning, you realize that even from the very start, it's a huge time commitment. I mean, knowing that going in, I think it's a big deal, especially for a partner or a spouse, knowing that there's a huge time commitment, and you have to be aware of that and have to recognize it, and you have to be able to accept it. It's a big deal. Yeah,
I mean, we had a ton of discussions, honestly, when we first started dating, where I said, like, I want to be a veterinarian and this is my dream, and it's going to be really hard on our relationship. And I think both of us went into it very eyes wide open and knowing that we were going to have those like difficulties, and it wasn't going to be a normal relationship where one person could stay home. We used to joke about you being a stay-at-home dad, but staying home with our kids during the pandemic definitely like squashed.
Had we had COVID 15 years ago, that would never been a discussion.
Yeah, never would have been a discussion. No. He's like, I'm good not being a stay-at-home dad now, for sure. Can you think of any time when I like broke a commitment or couldn't do something when it like was really hard on you, or?
I don't know that it was ever hard. I think having an open line of communication is important, though. I mean, had you just called me on a whim and said, hey, I can't make it to X, I think it would have been difficult. But just having an open line of communication and knowing, hey, today may be tough is one thing. But also, you being able to prioritize stuff too is important. So if there were some things where, Izzy's got something at school or whatever, you're able to change your schedule and make sure you're available for some of those special moments. It is key. I mean, you have to be willing to give a little bit.
Yeah.
As a veterinarian, change your schedule on an as-needed basis.
So someone else asked about your career again. So I'll let you kind of go through what your careers have been, because you've done different things depending on but also let me just say up front, the way our relationship has kind of been, it's been always like a give and take. So there's times when he has like really supported me and, has had to be more flexible. And then there's been times when he's traveled 3-4 days a week and I've had to be the one that kind of managed things and took care of things. And so I think it's important to know in most relationships that you're going to have different life stages and different times when you just have to communicate what you need and what you can and can't do. And someone might have to make a change in their career. I've done that in my vet career as my family's needed it, and he's done it too. So why don't you tell him what you used to do and then what you currently do now?
Yeah, so
Let's go through all the jobs.
How long do we have? No, I've got a degree in finance. So right out of college, I spent most of my career in banking and investments. I did that early in our marriage. Moved over to healthcare technology early on. Especially as we moved to California, I got into more of the healthcare side of things, a lot more technology focused companies out there. Did that for a number of years. Once Izzy was born, actually I probably did that even through Corbin being born.
Yeah.
And I was traveling quite a bit, and we realized then it was pretty hard if I'm going 2-3 nights a week to be able to have that balance. I think deep down I've always been an entrepreneur. I'm always looking for opportunities. My dad calls me a hustler. So now, I'm a partner in an oil and gas company. This is the second company that we've owned. Another one we bought, built up and sold. So this is number 2 on the entrepreneur side of things. But even before this, we've flipped houses, we've bought land and broke it up and subdivided it. So I think we're always looking for opportunities, and we're able to eat off our salary. So it gives me the flexibility to do some things. And kind of like that old entrepreneur saying, I work 80 hours a week, so I don't have to work a typical 40. So I don't have to necessarily be there from 8 to 5, but I may be working at midnight, so that type of thing.
Yeah, when he was in corporate America, y'all, he made bank. I'm just gonna be real honest with you. He made a crap ton of money, and it was when I was doing equine and internships and wasn't making a ton of money. So it really worked out financially, for our family, for me to really do what I loved. But when I switched to small animal, and then eventually when I started making a lot more money too, it gave him the freedom to say, okay, we can pay the bills, so I'm going to try this entrepreneur thing and buy some businesses. And he's been very successful, and I think that is another factor in our relationship of when either of us say, like, I want to try this, I want to do this, we really have a lot of full faith and confidence in each other that, like, we're going to get through it, however it turns out. And we're also big believers in you have to spend money to make money, so investing and trying different businesses is a big thing for us. And we knew that up front. I feel like we both had a lot of conversations about what we wanted out of life and what we were going to do. And we knew neither of us were ever going to be 9 to 5, punch the clock, retire at 65 type people. That's just not who we are. And so we are very well matched in that regard. But the flexibility he has now allows him to pick up kids when I can't. It allows him to take my daughter to softball, to coach her softball team. Even when I have these, lives or I have something scheduled, I did fetch over the weekend, did talks. He made sure the kids were busy. So it is really nice to have that ebb and flow and be able to rely on him and ask him to do so much of kind of the child care portion of things.
And also with a lot of help. There's a lot of family help involved as well.
A ton. And a lot of people ask, like, how do you do so much? It's only because I have such a good support system around me. So the other thing is our kids in general, which they're both right here. What's up, guys? They're supposed to be in bed, but what's up? Do you want to say hi real quick?
Let me go get bed, please.
Just wave. You have to, like, all the way lean over.
Hi.
Say hi. That's our oldest, Izzy. This is Corbin, our youngest. Okay, go get in bed. We'll be in there in just a minute.
He won't stop singing.
We'll
It's
get
okay.
some in a minute. You're going to read the books.
So Izzy is 8, about to be 9, and Corbin is 4, about to be 5. We have June babies. And we had Izzy after we had been married for 7 years. So a lot of people ask, like, how long we were married before we had kids. And it was 7 years. I'm going to go try to put them in bed. Do you want to, are you going to do it?
I got it.
Okay. He's gonna handle it. So we waited 7 years to have kids. I actually have a whole, like, Instagram TV video on it. Hi, Amanda. But we waited just because we did really want to kind of figure out where we were gonna live, figure out career stuff, figure each other out. I mean, it does take some time to do that. And I was very focused on working, and I knew I couldn't, once I had kids, I couldn't kind of work those really long hours as easily. And I know a lot of moms that do it, but just with the way his career was going, I knew that it wouldn't work for us. And so we did wait a while, and I felt like financially that was also a good decision because we felt very comfortable where we were once we had kids, and we were able to afford daycare and childcare and extra help is needed. And so that kind of took an extra pressure off. But it was 7 years that we were married. Okay, how old were we when we had kids? So we're older parents.
Yeah, how old were
How old? So I was 30 and 35. 31 and 35 when I had my kids. And so that means Shane was 32 and 37. No, it's totally fine that you asked. A lot of people ask, and I like to tell people that because I feel like a lot of people feel pressure, especially down here in the South, to like have kids. And we're a testament to the fact that we waited, and we're very happy with that decision. And I feel like it's kind of put us in a place that we know who we are. We're financially stable. Our careers are further along, so we have more flexibility. And so that worked well for us overall. So I think that the having kids talk is important to have and figure out how that's going to fit in. I know a ton of vet students that were moms, and I think that that's amazing. That would have been hard for us and for me.
I think you can do it. I mean, I don't think it's impossible to do.
No, I mean, a lot of people do it, so it's amazing. Was I in vet school when I had my first kid? No, I was not. I had been out of vet school for 5 years. And I basically did equine medicine, and then I had my first child, and then scheduling stuff and everything, and the emergency on call was 50% on call. I had to make a change, and you're actually one of the main reasons I made the change. You kind of had a conversation with me about physically how I was doing, emotionally how I was doing. So what were you seeing with me struggling when I was an equine practitioner and we had our first baby?
I could see the stress of the phone ringing, and then you thinking immediately you got to drop everything and go. And I think that was starting to take a toll quite a bit. Again, it can be done. It's just setting healthy boundaries, I think, to make that work. And had you been in a different environment, you probably could have made it work, but I think it was the right decision to make. And I think being a partner, again, sometimes you have to ask those tough questions, I don't think you have to force a decision on anybody, but you have to ask those tough questions and say, are you happy doing this? Are you stressed out from this type of environment?
Yeah, because my personality is like, if I'll just work harder, it'll work out. Like if I can just work, like I can work through it, I can push through it. Like I can do it all. And it really took him saying like, you are not okay. You're not yourself. Like what's going on? I think you're stressed. I don't think this is working for you. For me to kind of accept that a little bit and realize it wasn't me like failing as a veterinarian or as a mom, but it was me just recognizing that the situation I was in was not the best for our family. And it was not just one conversation, it was months of conversation before I was able to make a change.
Yeah, and again, you're talking about your career, so I don't think it's a one, even now, if you look back and say sometimes, is that the right decision? I mean, it's a tough decision to make. I mean, she wanted to be an equine veterinarian since she was 8 years old or whatever the age was. So making that decision, I think, was always going to be a tough decision.
Yeah, and there are still days where I'm like, I could do it, and I was really good at it, and I miss it. But I think it's okay to realize that, again, as your life changes and life stages, I really love the fact that I have so much free time now, and especially with our kids in sports and other things, that I can be there. I can't be there for everything, but I can be there for a lot of it. And I think that where we're at right now is the place we're supposed to be. That's also why I still really like my job, because we've kind of made these decisions and changes as our lives have dictated it. And we haven't ever felt like this is what we said we were going to do. We have to do this.
Yeah, you have to be flexible for sure.
Yeah.
Everybody does.
Well, and we are all about change. So we've lived in a different house like every 2 years we've been married. So
we're building a house right now. That's more difficult than vet school.
Oh my gosh, don't build a house during a pandemic, y'all. Don't do it. It's going to be amazing, and this guy's working so hard on it, but it has been tough. Dr. Tate Frosty wants to say, I'm a single and dating vet. You go, girl. As a partner of vet, is there anything you would like to have been told early on? Is there anything you would like to have been told early on, or any words of wisdom for future partners? A lot of people wanted to know what were your words of wisdom, or if there was anything I didn't tell you early on that would have been a good, like, heads up.
No, again, I'm not an animal person, so I really didn't understand the veterinary profession at all. So I came in really not knowing anything at all. And then I think it helped me being part of the vet school process, because I saw, the classes above you I saw what you had to go through on a daily basis. I've got good friends that are physicians that were in med school at the same time, and just to be completely transparent, they weren't in class near the hours. I played more golf with them, I think, than most.
Yes.
So seeing what the veterinarian goes through in the training, I think prepares you for, once they get out, how much work's actually involved. So again, I went in blind, but just being open-minded to, all the different situations and scenarios we might be faced with was, I think, big for me.
And I don't think there's any way to completely prepare people for it, because if you think about it, the idea that people have in their minds of what a veterinarian does, and then when you get off an emergency shift and you're like, I had to euthanize 6 animals today, I had, children crying in the room. I mean, it's not that picture that a lot of people have.
Yeah, I think even for the partner, I don't think you realize that, right? I mean, you look at it as they're going to play with puppies and kittens all day, and that's not the case. I mean, I think you have to be prepared for your partner to come home and just have a bad day, and how do you support that? How do you even just give them free time to go take a bath for an hour or whatever? You just got to be prepared for, not every day is puppies and kittens, so.
Yeah, and sometimes he has spent a fair amount of time at the clinics and hospitals that I worked at and interned at and in vet school. So sometimes seeing those behind the scenes things definitely has helped, I think, and seeing the hours and seeing what it entails. There's going to be no way to prepare it, but I think you need to know what you need as a person and a veterinarian and need to be able to tell them that. And so that's I am a big extrovert, and so as much as I love my family, really what helps me sometimes is to be I need a girls' night. I need to go with my girlfriends and have a glass of wine and laugh and joke, or go hang out with my sister. And he gets that it's okay that I need to refresh that way sometimes. Or it's, we need a date. We need to find someone to watch the kids. I have to be able to tell him what I need. And also understand that as much as he loves me, he will never get it 100% because he's just not in it. And that's okay. And I don't get what he does. Don't ask me anything about oil and gas because I do not understand it. But the dating situation would be tough. I can't imagine these days. But being as upfront and honest about what you're going through, and then when you're dating, letting them know.
How do you date now anyways?
I don't even know. It scares me. I know. That's a whole nother conversation. Okay. Did your job cross with your family commitments when sometimes you have to go in for work? Yes. Yes, 100%. So when I did equine and I was on call all the time, I had to bow out on a ton of family commitments. I would show up for stuff dressed up, but I would have stuff in the car. I actually drove my work truck everywhere. That was my personal vehicle, basically. And I had to leave all the time. I meant by operations or treatments. And now I work somewhere where I have support staff that they take care of a lot of the stuff on the weekends and a lot of the stuff after hours. I actually leave at 5 and we close at 6. So I don't think it infringes as much on our personal time as it used to. I don't have to go in on my day off as much as it did when I worked somewhere where there wasn't support staff and it was equine and I was the only one. Someone did ask what my situation is currently. So I'm an associate at a general practice. I am not an owner currently, and the goal is to be an owner eventually. We've always wanted that, but that is not in the cards right now. But I want to take this guy's entrepreneur spirit and finance background, and we want to own something eventually. So
I prefer to own multiple things.
Yeah. If you want to sell us your clinic in DFW, just give us a call. Right. It's an infomercial now. No. If you want to work for us at a clinic, just give us a call. So let me look at these questions and see. Ooh, okay, this is a good one. How did you compromise when you guys had completely different schedules?
I think, again, having family around was a big deal for us. Without family, it would be very difficult. And again, I think any type of relationship, whether you're in a vet relationship or not, is give and take. So there's days where I may have a meeting. I may have to reschedule that meeting if I need to. It's different if I'm traveling and maybe I'm out of town, then she would have had to, change something up. So you have to do life, and that's, again, whether it's a veterinary spouse or not, there's times where you have to give and take. We're lucky enough to have family around close by that if I'm traveling and she's on call, or not really on call, but if you're scheduled to work, we have some support to help us get that going. But we also have a pretty detailed schedule, so we know fairly in advance of when I'm gonna be out of town or when you're doing something, so
Yeah, we
can have help.
share a calendar, so we kind of know what's on the calendar, and we can look at it and say, okay, I can do this or I can't do that. And he knows when he has to travel for work, and I kind of can work around that. But I do think us having family makes a huge difference. That doesn't mean you have to have just family, those are your support system.
That's right.
You can develop a support system wherever you live. I have a ton of friends who are working moms, and we actually all help each other out, especially with like school age kids. So I do think it's important to know you just need a support system. You don't have to have a family support system in veterinary medicine. Oh, this is a good one. This is Noah Diaz. He's a veterinarian now. He just graduated, but he wants to know what has made you feel supported and what has made you feel neglected.
To me? Mm-hmm. I don't think I ever feel neglected necessarily. I think there's always a struggle, right, with, like Tanae just said, we believe in quality time. So as long as we have that quality time, I don't think you ever feel neglected. There are times where, maybe we're going to meet for dinner, after you get off at noon for lunch, and maybe you end up having to stay 30 minutes later and I've got to wait until you get there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's neglected. It's more of aggravating sometimes, but again, it's part of the job. So we may show up at the restaurant early and have to play tic-tac-toe for 30 minutes till you get there, but that's just life. So
yeah, I will say early on before we had kids, I did have times where, I could sit at the clinic and like talk to some of the other vets and talk about cases and do things. And I had to almost like in my head be like, no, I have to have a hard stop because, I want to make sure I get home and we have that time together. We don't know when the phone's going to ring again and I'm going to have to go. I'm kind of a workaholic in general, so I had to kind of train myself to make sure I took those hard stops, or else I would just kind of keep working. And it's not because I don't want to see him or spend time with him, and I think he knows that. It's just I really do love what I do, and so I could do it all the time and talk about it all the time and just be engaged with it a lot.
And I think that's important. I mean, you could, again, stay and work for an extra 3 hours, but at some point you have to cut it off and say, I'm not doing a surgery right now. Mm-hmm. Whatever I'm talking about can wait till tomorrow. And you have to set those boundaries and those hard stops for sure. And
that is hard. As a new veterinarian, it's much harder to do. You really feel like you have to be there. You have to have all the conversations. You have to do all the things before you leave. And the older you get, you definitely get more efficient. You kind of learn what you do and don't have to do right away. Especially when I work ER relief, I kind of know when to start slowing down, seeing patients and trying to work on my records. And I'm much better about saying, I'm not going to see that patient if someone else can take it because I am trying to get out of here on time.
And I think that's with any business. I mean, not to go into business conversation, but to understand that you have to build a team around you to help. You can't do everything on your own. I mean, if you sat there and called every client back yourself, if you did double check all the work that they did, you'd be there forever. So you have to build a team. You have to understand that team is the right team, and you have to lean on them to, make decisions and run with stuff.
Yeah, trusting other veterinarians and trusting your support staff makes a huge difference as a veterinarian, and being able to have that, I guess everyone says work-life balance. I don't think it's necessarily balance, but just having everything kind of flow a little bit better. A lot of people wanted to know what the work-life balance, like what you thought about just that in general, that as a term, like terminology. Do you think there's such a thing as work-life balance, or what do you think it's really kind of considered?
I think it's just life balance, whether it's work or prioritizing me going to hang out with buddies or whatever it is. I think there's a life balance that you have to do as a family. I mean, you have to prioritize your spouse for one, or your partner for one. And you could easily be a workaholic, but you could just as easily come home, early from work, but go hang out with your girlfriends. So I don't know if it's necessarily a work-life balance as much as it's just a life balance. You have to understand how much your partner needs or how much your family needs, and make sure that they become the priority, and then kind of work around that.
Yes, and I do think the more you know each other and the better you know each other, you can feel that. And sometimes you're going to need more than other times too.
Yeah.
So there's times where maybe you're struggling more in life, or there's something going on in our lives that we need to be more, like recently I stepped back from doing as much ER relief because we just felt like our kids had a lot going on and our family has a lot going on, and I need to be more present. And so having those days, like extra days together, has been really nice, and I think that it was needed. And so that's a conversation that we kind of had, and I felt like was the next step for me. So
and be fluent in that balance. I mean, it might change. I mean, 2 months from now, we may have a bunch of free time, and you want to go back and work ER, and just be fluent with it.
Brandon wants to know, do you share the details of some of the rough cases and what really gets you, or do you feel you should keep them separate for fear it would be upsetting or wearing on your partner? So this makes me laugh because I am like a open book about everything, and I think he actually doesn't mind like the gross stuff. But when we were dating, he came and visited me at like a farm where I was working to like fold out horses. It was a large repro facility, and I had this man like up to his
shoulder deep in a horse vagina. I mean, let's just put it out there. It is what it is.
Y'all,
I had no glove on.
Stop. Well, it was a dystocia, and I needed another hand, and I was like, get over here, put your arm in here, grab this, and he's like, what? And I was like, come on, let's do this. And y'all, I'm gonna tell you something right now. You're not gonna like I tell him this, but we delivered this foal together, and this man teared up a little bit, and he will never admit that, but he was like,
it was probably
it's probably stuff in your eyes. No, but I haven't just told him about disgusting things. I have actually had him do disgusting things. I once lanced a horse abscess in a tongue where it had a wire in the tongue.
That was more gross than the horse vagina.
And he was holding the head, and the abscess material actually just ran down his back, and it was just warm on his back, and he was like, what was that? And I was like, nothing, just don't move. I can see the wire. And it smelled horrific.
So gross.
So yeah, he went with me on emergency calls after hours when he could. So he has experienced it.
But I also think that tough cases are good for you to have a sounding board. I mean, again, I don't know what she does every day.
Right.
So if she comes home in a bad mood, if she doesn't share those cases in some detail or another, I mean, it doesn't have to be the entire case, but it could just be I had a tough day, we had to put down several animals, and it was a tough day. Just hearing that allows me to know what direction to go for the night. I mean, maybe we have 2 glasses of wine. I don't know. So just
maybe there's no sexy time.
That information,
like, I don't know.
Yeah, that information to your partner, I think, is important.
Yeah, and you're like, today is not a good day, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna shut down a little bit. No, I do think that it is important to be as open and honest as you can be, and there's no reason, because your partner's going to see the good, bad, and ugly. I mean, this man's seen me had 2 babies. He's seen it all. So he might as well know what's in my heart and what I'm struggling with, and he definitely helps me with that and getting through it. Someone wanted to know, how do you schedule date nights and prioritize time together? A majority of the time, this is what happens for our date nights. Hey, I think I'm going to get out of work on time. Do you want to see if someone can watch the kids and we'll go to dinner tonight? And he's like, cool. Like, don't you think? I mean, I don't feel like we schedule date nights. It's just we fit them in.
But I think we try to have a date night once or twice, once a week or once every 2 weeks or so. I mean, yeah. At least. So.
We do. I don't think, I know some couples who are like the first Friday of every month, like we're going to have a date night, and that's just, we are not those type of people. Mm-hmm. We are more like last minute or a day or 2 ahead of time. And because we have such a support system, we're able to do that, because I literally have a list of 5 people I can call to be like, hey, can you watch the kids tonight? Or pick up, Corbin from daycare, because we're going to go on a date.
And spend money for that. I mean, if it costs you $50 to have somebody come in and watch your kids for a night, it's money well spent.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I've developed a relationship with a technician at work that I really trust and my kids love, and she'll be one that I can even say, are you doing anything tonight? You want to watch the kids for a couple of hours, and it works out really well, and she gets a little extra money, and I know her really well. So it's not just family. There are a lot of other people that we can call on. Let me just check my questions and see. Ooh, someone wanted to know, do you feel like you have to give more in the relationship?
No.
I feel like you do.
I don't think so. And again, taking it outside of you being a veterinarian, I think just you have to be willing to give in a relationship. Both parties have to be able to give, and you have to love unconditionally. I mean, there's going to be time for you where I'm not extremely happy with you for whatever reason.
What?
But you live with it, and you just keep moving. But no, I don't think I give more than I get, for sure.
I feel like if I could have handpicked a person to do this crazy life with me and be my partner with the dreams that I have and the things I want to do, he was the perfect fit. And I think that's why when we met so randomly at a wedding, you can meet anybody anywhere, but there was such a connection that I'm really glad we both just decided to go with our gut and do it, because 15 years later and 2 kids, it's still a lot of fun and, has worked out really well for us. So let's wrap things up. If you guys have any final questions, you can drop them down below. I hope that you learned something. I hope you had a little bit of fun with us. I appreciate you doing this. I really had to sell him on this situation.
Force me into it.
So, but final thing, a lot of people just want to know overall best advice that you could give someone who is a partner to a veterinarian, or give somebody who's in veterinary medicine and their partner. What would you tell them?
Be patient, be open-minded, be understanding. And again, I don't know that necessarily has to do with you being a veterinarian. I think it's just life in general. I mean, you have to love unconditionally. I mean, marry your best friend. If you're dating somebody right now and you don't want to be around them all the time, that's not your best friend, go find somebody else. It's not a right fit. So I think just, marry your friend, love them unconditionally, be patient, be understanding, be willing to give when you have to give, be willing to communicate. If I need a date night, if I need more time, if things aren't going good, you have to be able to communicate that. So.
And I think that the most important thing for me is it's not about you, it's about the other person as much as you can make it, and about your family, and knowing that and always trying to kind of think of what can I do for them, what can I do to help them is important. But you being a healthy, happy person is going to be a factor in that too, right? And so taking care of yourself, asking for what you need, resting when you need to, and making a change in your career as a veterinarian if your family needs you to is an absolute must. You cannot feel stuck in a toxic job or a toxic situation. You have to be willing to make a jump, and you need a partner that supports that.
And don't look at everybody's life online and think they have a perfect life and I need this life and I'm jealous because of it, or the grass is always green on the other side. I mean, what you see online, a lot of these places are just, not authentic or somewhat fake. Live your life, love your partner, and make it work.
Yeah, and I do think you can make it work, and I encourage you that if you are struggling, find somebody to talk to, find a counselor. I think there's a lot of value in that, and people can change and can be, better about overall. So you guys have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have any other questions, comments, you can always DM me, reach out to me. Don't do that to this guy because he is not about the social media world. But if
Do not ask me any questions outside of this conversation.
If you enjoyed it and found it valuable, you can like and share it, and then maybe I can convince him to do it again another day. Thank y'all so much, and have a wonderful night. Thanks, guys. Bye.